Hello, and welcome back to Voices of Student Success, Inside Higher Ed's podcast series on student retention, engagement, and graduation strategies. I'm your host, Ashley Maureiter, Student Success Reporter for Inside Higher Ed. Thanks for joining us today. This series is a companion to our Student Success newsletter, a weekday publication that provides ideas and inspiration for higher education practitioners who work in or care about student success. This season is all about preparing you for the start of the academic year, packing your school bag, if you will, with different strategies and initiatives that can impact student success. In July 2023, Congress lifted a ban on the use of Pell Grant funding in prison education programs, paving the way for incarcerated students to access higher education in new ways. Similar to their peers taking classes on the outside, paying for college is just one barrier to enrollment for incarcerated students, and college readiness is another. One organization involved in this work is the Petey Greene Program, a nonprofit that partners with correctional facilities and higher education institutions to improve student learning with tutoring services. In 2020, PGP launched a College Bridge program, which provides reading, writing, critical thinking, and math skills to help learners succeed in college-level courses. In this episode, I spoke with Katherine Meloney, Director of the Villanova Program at SCI Phoenix, and Chiara Benetollo, Executive Director of the Puttkammer Center for Educational Justice and Equity at the Petey Greene Program, to learn more about the College Bridge program and ways higher education can support justice and learning for incarcerated students.
This episode of the Student Success Podcast is sponsored by KI. Supporting the development of world-class learning and campus environments has been and always will be at the core of KI. The KI team has built its reputation for excellence in education for over 70 years, working shoulder to shoulder with educational partners to develop a roadmap for a future of innovation. Learn more at ki.com/the key.
Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to join me today. It's great to have you both on. Just to get us started, would you mind introducing yourselves and some of your work and your respective institutions, I guess, as well? Kate, maybe we'll start with you.
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Katherine Meloney, and I am the Director of Villanova University's program at SCI Phoenix, which is a BA degree program at a local maximum security men's prison. We have been in existence since 1972, and we have awarded over 100 BAs in that time.
And I'm Chiara Benetollo. I am the Executive Director of the Puttkammer Center for Educational Justice and Equity at the Petey Greene Program. The center is the organization's research and strategy division and was created this year. But the Petey Greene Program has been around since 2008 and has served just a little bit less than 20,000 students since then.
Wow, that's wonderful. I wonder if we can just start the conversation by very broadly just addressing the role of higher education in supporting justice and incarcerated persons. I think for a lot of people, this conversation has become more prevalent with the reinstatement of Pell Grants for incarcerated students. But like you mentioned, Kate, this is something that's been happening for a lot of years, and just that intersection is super interesting. So maybe, Chiara, you can kick us off.
Yeah, absolutely. So of course, it's wonderful that more people are talking about the intersection of education and justice, higher education and justice. We know from research that some of the lack of opportunities, educational opportunities in prisons and jails are correlated with high unemployment rates among formerly incarcerated people, and in turn contribute to high reincarceration rates. So there's obviously a lot of ways in which higher education and any form of education in prison is connected to social and economic justice. But I also think that it's important to think about education as justice in and of itself. You know, education is a human right. Everybody has the right to think in an abstract way, to engage in deep intellectual conversation, to really stimulate those parts of our brains. So I almost want to reframe the question of the relationship between higher education and justice to think about how higher education in itself is a form of justice for those who are incarcerated.
I completely agree with Chiara. I think one thing that we tend to forget is that education is a right. It's not a privilege. And by providing education to incarcerated individuals, it offers them the chance for personal growth and transformation. And what we see is that it has a huge ripple effect. So it also impacts their families, it impacts their community, and it is extremely important aspect to justice throughout, not just for incarcerated individuals, but for their communities as well.
Yeah, absolutely. For incarcerated students specifically, there's quite a few barriers to entering higher education, but one of those is a lack of preparation. And I know the Petey Greene Program has a college bridge program now that helps provide some of those transitional measures to help support students who are incarcerated. And here, I wonder if you can talk about the program and some of the ways that it supports students.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, one of the greatest barriers to access to higher education in prison is the lack of preparation. We know that about a quarter of incarcerated people who have a high school diploma, so they are technically eligible for higher education programming, have very low numeracy and math skills. And obviously, even higher numbers have low enough skills that they just are not in a position to thrive in a credit-bearing college level program. So what the College Bridge program does is, as the name suggests, bridge that gap. We work to meet students where they are and to prepare them to be able to enroll and really to succeed in higher ed in programs in prisons and beyond prisons. We do that through two courses, a math and a writing course that are similar to the college readiness programs that a lot of campuses have, or to a first-year writing seminar, for example. And I will say that another great benefit that I see the College Bridge program having, in addition to just providing those additional skills for people, or a refresher of skills that people have, is fostering students' confidence, helping more people see themselves as college students. A lot of the College Bridge students came to us maybe because that was the program that was available at their facility, maybe because they have an interest in writing, or because they hate math, right? So we have found a variety of reasons why people come to the program, and we have worked to incorporate those objectives in our curriculum, while also slowly building people's self-image as the image of someone who can go to college if that's something that they want to do.
Yeah. Kate, I wonder if you can talk about how this looks practically at the correctional facility that Villanova's program exists at.
This has been program changing for us.
Wow.
Our students have asked for preparatory programming for a while, and it has been very exciting for us to be able to partner with Petey Greene to offer a real meaningful bridge to the academic classroom. For a lot of our students, they are older. They haven't been in the classroom for 20, 30 years. And it is very intimidating to go straight into a English class where you are reading 6 books a semester and you have to write very in-depth papers and essays, and also be able to add to discussion in the classroom. And our students have really benefited from this. And not only our students who are looking to enroll in the program, but we are really excited to be able to offer, for example, the Math College Bridge program for students who are already in our program, but who have a fear of math and need some extra help. And like Chiara said, it's all about confidence. It's all about sharing with our students that they can do this, and they know that they can, but they have been told time and time again that they can't. And it is being able to see these students thrive academically that is really exciting for them. to see.
Yeah. That's awesome. We see that a lot with adult learners where it's sometimes just reminding them what it's like to go to college or to be in class again. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about how this confidence might help students continue their educational journeys as well, because we know that this program doesn't necessarily mean they're going to earn a degree or certificate, but how it can be sort of that first start into that educational journey again.
Yeah, one thing that I will say is what we see, especially I would say with the writing course, is students come to us with a certain understanding of for what a good writing is. And I taught in college, that's very common in college outside prisons as well, right? You arrive and you think that academic writing is a sort of mysterious set of norms that it's only achievable to a very small part of the population, and certainly not to you. And so a lot of the work that we do is think about what skills incarcerated students already have as writers and readers, because those are some of the people who read the most and write the most in the country. They are reading every day, they're writing every day, they're writing letters to their families, right? So they are extremely familiar with reading and writing, just not with that maybe particular genre. And I think once you start making that passage that, actually, yes, I write poems, and there are so many ways in which this expressive form of writing can help me write effective college level essays. I think it's really transformative, and it sustains you after you enroll in college throughout your career. Being able to see yourself as someone who already has skills to build upon and doesn't need to learn everything from zero. I think especially for adult learners, that is really important, and it's important that we don't treat adult learners as blank slates. Kids as well are not blank slates, but all the more adult learners, right, that come with a wealth of experiences and skills.
I think that is what is so amazing about our classes, and what surprises our students is that what really makes the classroom a rich experience is their lived experiences. They have so much to add to the classroom environment, and our classes take much longer to get through the material than they do on, say, our main campus, because our students are so engaged. They want to do more reading. They ask for more materials. They do all of their reading, and they want to do extra writing. They want to practice. This is something that is really exciting to them, because they can bring in their own lives into the classroom and connect those two. And that is very exciting for everybody.
Something that I was also curious about is obviously this College Bridge program is great in helping break that barrier of preparation for students, but what are some other ways that we can support incarcerated students through completing their educational journey and continuing to learn even beyond their time maybe serving?
As an organization that started as a tutoring organization, although now we do much more, of course, my answer is going to be tutoring. Providing individualized support is something that we hear from our students that is really essential. There's actually a lot of research showing that tutoring is among the most effective educational interventions on any campuses, from high schools to colleges outside of prisons. And all the more, I think it's important in prisons when those opportunities for one-on-one interactions with instructors are limited, where educational support services, meeting with your dean, meeting with your advisors, all those elements that may make for a great supportive college experience are constitutionally more limited. So I think and what we have been doing at the Petey Greene Program, and we're continuing to expand in this direction, is having tutors that work with students from the College Bridge program level to working with students who are enrolled in college, and then continuing to work with them after they are released at a crucial time in which education tends to take a bit of a backseat, because once you're released, You got to find housing, you got to find a job, you're reconnecting with your family, maybe you're supporting your family. So it's really difficult to continue to prioritize education in that context, and providing individualized one-on-one support that again supports your motivation as well as your progress in terms of skills is, I think, really crucial.
I think that it is very clear that our students are hungry for education. And once they get their BA, most of them want to go on to get their master's degree, which is not something that we can offer at this time. What we can offer is exactly what Chiara was talking about, which is peer-to-peer tutoring. Our students create their own study groups, and former students, graduates, come together to work with students who are either going through the College Bridge program or who are currently going through the Villanova program to assist with homework, with writing, debating ideas even. And this is something that keeps that classroom environment alive as much as we can. We would love to be able to offer more, but it is clear that our students are motivated to continue their learning outside of the classroom.
And on the note of peer tutoring and students serving as tutors for other students, I do want to say that we often talk about the limitations of the correctional environment, which of course are many. But one thing that correctional environments really have that distinguishes them, I think, from outside colleges are incredibly strong self-organized learning communities that play an incredible role in fostering education in this environment. And I'm so glad that Kate mentioned that the peer tutoring inside the facility in which they operate in two other facilities, not yet in our partnership with Villanova, but in two other facilities. What we started doing this year is having joint cohorts of volunteer tutors from the outside and incarcerated tutors operating together to support the College Bridge students. And we're seeing that it just enriches the conversation so much because those two group of tutors are able to bring in different perspectives and to approach the texts or the assignments in different ways, each contributing a different point of view.
Yeah. And I'm sure that empowers the students to feel like leaders in their communities as well, which is always an outcome that we want to see from higher education as well. Something I like to ask people who work in student success is, what do you see as the metrics of success in your work? And with incarcerated students, that can look like a lot of different things. So if you had to put metrics on student success in your work, what would that be?
Well, I think a lot of the metrics that we consider with adult learners in general, with college students in general, apply here as well. And those are some of the metrics that we consider. We do, in the College Bridge program, we do diagnostic and line assessments, both for math and for writing. And through this, we are able to see just progress in academic skills. As I mentioned before, I think confidence is also an incredibly important metric in itself, and because it supports further academic progress.
So when we are looking at metrics of success, I prefer to look towards the student and more student-centered ideas of success. So education aligns with restorative justice, right? And restorative justice principles by facilitating healing, reintegration, and it can help individuals understand their impact in life. And what we see is individuals who have taken their confidence to the next level and are forming groups inside for political action to better their own lives and advocate for those on the outside as well as for themselves. And I think that is incredibly important in something that we don't always examine, which is where our students go from the classroom And we see a lot of our students who are doing community organizing and connecting with those on the outside who they want to advocate for, be it youth, marginalized individuals. There's a group on the inside at SCI Phoenix that creates a fund for an individual to go to college. I think that is something that is really important to understand, that it does go beyond the classroom.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This episode of the Student Success Podcast is sponsored by KI. Supporting the development of world-class learning and campus environments has been and always will be at the core of KI. The KI team has built its reputation for excellence in education for over 70 years, working shoulder to shoulder with educational partners to develop a roadmap for a future of innovation. Learn more at ki.com/the-key.
As we consider next steps in where incarcerated student supports can go, or where this conversation for this unique group of learners can lead, especially like we mentioned earlier, this greater attention on students as eligible for the Pell Grant, where would you like to see the conversation go, or what are some continued areas of focus that you would like to see from either higher education institutions or other groups?
I think one thing, the conversation has already started to evolve towards considering higher education in prison something that starts before you enroll in college and ends after you get your degree. And I think that continuing to think about that continuum is really essential. College Bridge, of course, comes to mind, any form of college readiness, as well as ongoing support for the transition, for what happens after you finish your degree. Like Kate was mentioning, there is a tremendous appetite for master programs, PhD programs in carceral facilities that remains hugely underaddressed, but also for transition into the workforce, employment, etc. So that's something that I think it's important that we continue to discuss as we continue the conversation about higher education in prison, thinking about partnerships with community organizations and with employers or whatever comes next after you have wrapped up your degree.
I think one thing I would like to see is a more consistent effort at a national level to create equal opportunities for incarcerated individuals in each state, so that your success isn't determined on what state you happen to be incarcerated in. So if the state that you are in is not interested in programs like College Bridge or expanding education on the inside, what does that mean for you? So how do we create a national movement for consistent success in post-secondary education in prison for all incarcerated individuals, especially women who tend to be left behind in this area? And
speaking of groups that get left behind, people who don't speak English as their first language or who are not fluent in English is another category that I would like to see a lot more focus on. We have started to develop some English language learning programs, some bilingual support. And I think there is so much more work to do, because if we know that educational opportunities are limited for people who are incarcerated, if you don't speak the language in which most of those educational opportunities are offered, your options are even further limited.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you both so much for this conversation. It has been great learning and listening to both. I super appreciate your insights and for sharing them with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
And a very big thank you to our listeners for joining us today for this episode of Voices of Student Success. Our next episode, coming in 2 weeks, will discuss the evolving role of the library on college campuses and how librarians are a key player in student success. That's all for this episode. I'm Ashley Marrieder, and I'll see you real soon.